I got some company Tuesday, October 14th. Got the lion and the tree. Was a bit moody, but cleaned, did dishes because there was lots of dishes from the Thanksgiving yesterday. Said my gratitude, and here I am, marching. Gonna get a little bit towards the sun, see what it is with that rock and roll, of course. Always for the firefighters, bakers, butchers, nurses, doctors, the electricians, and the plumbers, the welders, those involved in the distribution, production of food, of course, always for them rock and roll. Was a bit moody, but wish I could afford that massage therapy session, but friends with benefits only, pledge your allegiance, legions marching forward, the 10, the 50, and the 3, always for the 63, independent, androgynous, N.A.C.W.P artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical, theoretical, honest, and theorist, and mystic. We're gonna straight towards the sun. Gonna hit the sun in 4, 3, 2, 1 in 4 seconds. Yeah. Turn your heads left and right before you cross the street, and on the way we're gonna drop some garbage because I don't have a black bag yet in my place. Gas went down by 4 cents. It was 155.9. So last time I checked. How the Habs doing? I think Habs playing tonight against Kraken at 7. Please reduce the cost of the tickets. It feels so good when you're in the sun. It just gets a refreshing, refreshing dose. Gonna pull on my sleeves and that October sun, and here it is. Look at that beautiful garden. I just love this color mix. Makes me think of the Napolitan, ice cream. There's a little bit of an ice cream parlor there. You can go have a little bit of that ice cream if you want. And now we're gonna straight head it towards the sun with gratitude, rock and roll, of course, for the firefighters, bakers, butchers, nurses, doctors, electricians, the plumbers, and always for the 10, the 50, and the 3. That 63 is supposed to drop down a little bit, 4 degrees in the next 4 hours. It's 5:06 p.m. when I started doing the recording, so that means by 9:06 it should be like 13ish. Said 17 when I left. I guess it's a little bit less than, more than 17. Feels like 20ish, with the sun, I guess. So feeling much better. I know that I'm out, but it was a bit moody. But they're going on a strike again, second time, third, fourth time this year. But this is gonna be more than with action, actually reducing service rather than just picket lines. Last time 2 weeks ago, for 2 weeks they had a few days where they were reducing the service, but they weren't asking for that much. 25% increase salary over 5 years, so 25 divided by 5, that's a 5% increase annually. So I think, of course, that's something that they should have been given, I guess, because I calculated the financial propositions with their request in the balance sheet, and I kind of think that they were asking for pretty much fair to keep up with the cost of living, So as I'm a pro-labor and love universal revolutionary centrist, let's calling for the foundation of the North American Collective Workers Party, N.A.C.W.P. Oh, somebody left a little bit of slippers there. I have my own at home I don't need, and here it is, the bus drivers and the transit. I just heard on the radio that they were going to go on the strike soon, and again for another time. I think 2-3 weeks ago they were on strike. The strike ended like 11 days ago, but now they seem that they're going to go on strike again with that. And got a little red car there, my favorite color, wearing always that red, And this one's kind of nice too, This one's a plug-in hybrid, and of course always when I march I always calculate that mathematical representations, and of course always get a little bit for that drill to the bakers, the butchers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, the electricians. You get somebody doing that fitness activity here. You got some football. Gridiron, my 49ers lost over the weekend, but it was a good fight. Played out against the Buccaneers, who were also 4-1. We were heading 4-1, 4-1, and we're 4-2 now, which is still good. Of course, we're going to go 13-3 for the season, and that's what we're going to get it for all the way to the Super Bowl. And they're doing a little bit of that rock and roll as I sing rock and roll for my allies and armies. Pledge your allegiance, legions to our family. And here they're drilling a little bit of that gridiron. Always good to get a little bit of that gridiron for that. And they're playing a little bit of that good ball there for the left. And of course, get on the left, right, Z to be proponent about gridiron, but of course my favorite sport is dancing. Favorite sport is dancing, with that. And here's a beautiful day with that left, right, and Z, and gotta get a little bit of flowers there to get a little bit of that flowers with that rock and roll, and that's all we gotta get. That's drills for the left, and in the middle, of course, in those positions where we are now to get on, of course, all the representational activities of the civilizational complex of North America without getting too intellectual, academic, or sophisticated. Sometimes, because of Asperger's, there's a tendency which I always have to keep in check. And I guess you guys are gonna switch and look at a little bit of the field. Go HHHH on 4, snap, complete, defense, offense. I love gridiron. Also, dancing is my favorite sport. But now that I feel much better with a smile on my face, and I say, hey, when I see people working out, training, exercising, it's always good. And that's what I'm doing now on the steps in these working boots, steel toe boots, to be regenerate, of course, about all the civilizational context where we are now, to be regarding that we're heading west, towards the sun, heading west towards the sun and all that. And of course, you gotta get it on the drill, for all those firefighters, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, and the doctors, the plumbers, the electricians, the welders, and of course, all those who are involved in the production, distribution of food, So that's what it is there. We gotta get it on those drills with that for the left and the right, Gotta get, of course, all that civilizational complex to get on the doers and the bakers and the nurses, the firefighters, and all those, of course, involved in the production, distribution of food, Yeah, that's what we gotta get doing with that drill. And of course, all those who are involved now on the road in the production, distribution of food, that is something which we gotta do. Salutations, civilization is a privilege, Civilization is a privilege. Civilization is a privilege, and that's what it is. That's what it is with that, and that's what it is in XYZ factors of the elemental precision where we are now in the position, of course, to be left and right and in the middle, and of course all those civilizational complexes where we are, of course, to be now. And that's what we have to be doing now to be, and you see all those levels, how intricate sometimes in their simplicity as they are, the fact that we have, of course, now this Loyola campus, which is an education campus, of course, in the congregational aspects, of course, of the civilizational complexes, of the dynamics of the education at all the levels of the educations, and of course the privilege of having electricity, running water, how they're interdependent, of course, for that lack of all of that. That's how we gotta get drilling, So I'm gonna try to get as much I'm gonna get as much as not XYZ and that, and that's what it is with that. To go, of course, in the representational activities where we are now to be. Look at those beautiful trees. See how beautiful they are when the light goes on them. The kind of a light from the sun. I guess you just gotta see Mother Nature. Sometimes you gotta open your eyes and just gaze upon this beauty. So back to the civilizational privilege, of course, the privilege of civilization where we have to be now is, of course, the fact that it is a privilege. Yeah, that was my thesis back in 2023, the privilege of civilization, which I've presented to the world in a more dynamical, general manner. I had a 4-part lecture series. I think they were about an hour, 2 hours each. And of course all those dimensions where we are now, of course, to be in the situational awareness that we have now, to be in the circumspections of being able to cross the street here safely. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm safer now just to go on this side, turn left or right. Although it's a one-way, you never know, eh? Although this is one-way in TV. What's that mess? We got a lot of work to do. That's why we need the DJ. Please, people, citizens, don't leave trash like all over the place here, all over the place. Because, of course, it's something which, it's not cool, it's not cool. Just don't. Please don't. That's just my color of heart, here in this civilizational aspect, because you got flora, fauna. It's gonna start raining, it's gonna start snowing, and all those chemicals on the bottles, on those things that are colorful, they're gonna go inside the ground and they're gonna do damage to the environment. So is that really from California? Somebody came in from the 50 states. I was born in the United States 3 times, post 76. Yeah, post 7076 from California. Once as a woman, twice as a man, served as a man in the same United States Armed Forces, 156 years apart, and now, of course, androgynous pansexual artist, athlete, philosopher who loves those flowers. Red is my favorite color, but when it comes to flowers, I guess I have a little bit of sweetness for those flowers which are yellow. And you can see the gorgeous trees. Autumn, love all four seasons. And if you're interested about poetry and reincarnations, George Patton, one of my favorite poets of all time, and of course generals of the United States. George Patton wrote Through a Glass Darkly, one of my favorite poems. Through a Glass Darkly. Via or through a, but he wrote it Through a Glass Darkly. That was one of my favorite poems, of course. Through a Glass Darkly, and of course that was the poem, of course, which I read often and every year. And of course he speaks about reincarnations. He also believed in reincarnations as I do. However, he did not mention that he was born a woman in past life incarnations, because as a matter of fact, George Patton was my wife in a past life incarnation, and that's what it is with that. That's what it is for the do. So he was my wife, as I was his, you know. I was his wife, he was my wife, and now I'm just gonna drill it in and go by the side there to the sun as much as I can, you know. And those are just the dynamics, because I gotta get some sunlight. So I think the best way for me to do is just go, will I get more sun there or on the side there? I think the sun is gonna be getting it here if I cross here, but then it doesn't really matter if I'm gonna head to cross all the way to the bridge. I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be crossing all the way to the bridge to get more sun as I can. On the sunset, of course, that is something which we have to be doing on the drill, with the side, of course, of going towards the sun, you know. Now it's something which we have, you know, and there's just something which I adore. The sun sets and always rises, you know. So that is something which we have, and my brothers and sisters in boys and girls in blue are not perfect. Neither am I, neither are you, you know. We gotta sometimes, as I sing that rock and roll for the boys and girls in blue, I also sing that rock and roll for my brothers and sisters who do their criminal rehabilitation, you know. Gotta put it there, a little bit of garbage, and wait to cross the street, you know, safely. And that's what it is with that, and that's why they gotta get that rock and roll, you know. Here we are, grateful, thankful, financially stressed, but the youth are happy, laughing. Youth are happy, and youth are happy and joyous, you know. Youth are happy and joyous. That's what matters. That's what matters. The youth happy, joyous, safe, you know. At the end of the day, that's what makes my day. They're smiling, giggling, and laughing. That's the most important thing, you know. The rest, freedom, we gotta ensure it, and we got beautiful nature, you know, and that makes me smile. Their happiness, you know, their joy, my joy, I guess, in many ways. Although financially stressed, that's my only stress now. And so you gotta watch for the potholes there. And of course, those are, of course, the operational abilities of where we are to operate in this civilizational complex. And gotta love, salute the youth and the elders and the butchers and the bakers and the nurses and the doctors and the firefighters and the electricians and the plumbers and all those involved in the production, distribution of food, you know. Gotta get it on that rock and roll. And guess Habs are playing tonight. Guess the Kraken. We're 3-2, right? 3 victories, 2 losses. 3 victories, 2 losses. And of course, all that to say that we might go 4-2, and my 49ers are 4-2 now. Because Buccaneers were 4-1, eh? So we lost. They were 4-1 and 4-1, so we got a little bit of that drilled out. But please reduce the cost of the tickets. NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB, NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, National Basketball Association, NFL, National Football League, NBA, National Basketball Association, NHL, National Hockey League, NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, National Basketball Association, NFL, National Football League, MLB. There you go. I said the 4. The NHL, National Hockey League, the NFL, National Football League, the NBA, National Basketball Association, the MLB. Please reduce the tickets. I said the 4. I guess we're good with that, you know. Please reduce the tickets. the tickets, the cost. I'm making a reference to the cost, right? The cost of the tickets. That's basically what I'm referring when I'm saying that. I'm making the cost of the tickets. And please give some tickets to the public workers, who pick up the garbage, the recycling. I didn't take a bath today. I'm probably gonna take one tomorrow because I wish I could afford a massage therapy session, but any friends with benefits, you gotta be 18 plus for that one, 18 plus for that one. 18 plus. Black, white, or rainbow 18 plus, And I'm an N.A.C.W.P. I have sometimes this weird, awkward, eccentric behavior, of course, in the circumstantial position where we have now to be, in the inferential dynamics where we are now. Of course, all of the relationships, of course, where we are now to be developed underneath, of course, and above and round about. As civilization is a privilege. And there we go, spotted those yellow flowers. A little bit of Halloween decoration, and please reduce the cost of the Halloween, Super important to develop the things, of course, and of course this Halloween decorations where we are now to be, and of course all those to say, of course, in all the manners where we are now proponent. That my only stress is financially. If I would have been a billionaire, I would have definitely given. There's the flag spotted. I flag the spot. I show it off. I spot the flag. I see it there. Flag spotted. I show it off. Show it off. Flag spotted. Flag spotted, and that's what it is, man. I spot the flag. I gotta show it off, So if I spot the flag, and that's what I gotta show it off on my body as well, because I got it tatted up, so it's always on me, Flag is always on me, so that's always a carry my flag, open carry, I guess. My Canada. You don't ask me when I got it, probably decades and decades and decades and decades ago, because as far as my memory goes, and I have trouble accessing my memories prior to 2014, January, February. Sometimes memory comes back, and I used to live on the island of Montreal, but that's a long time ago, though, Think about it. January, February 2014. January 2014, January, February 2014 is, if you say February, then March, April, May, June, July, August. So March, April, May, June, July, August, right? So February, let's say March, April, May, June, July, August, September. So that's 7 months. So it's more than 11 years and a half ago, right? It's more than 11 years and a half ago. It's more than 11 years and a half ago, if you think about it, the time frame. So it's a long time ago, in other words, right? It's a long time. Winter 2014, January, February 2014. Gotta watch you here when you gotta turn your heads left or right. And that's what it is with that. And that's how we gotta go, man. Gotta give it for those dynamics. And I like how it is. These big ones and the small ones, see big and small. I kind of like the proportion, and because of my Asperger's, what I was doing now is I kind of calculate the ratio, mathematical ratio, so the height. But of course, it can be only estimated. I think that it's more than double, of course. It looks like it's more than double. So in mathematics, there's the ratio. So the proportionality ratio between these flowers, the small ones and the big ones, they look like they have an equilibrium kind of symmetry. So see, they look like this one's double the size of that one, and that one's a little bit smaller than that one. So they're not co-equally representative, but they are smaller. So we can make that statement, mathematical statement. This is a weird, awkward, bizarre, strange kind of thing about N.A.C.P.'s autistics, is that mathematical calculations, sometimes they're always going on in the background. For example, now what I'm discussing, I'm meditating, I'm doing a little bit of a geopolitical, social rock and roll style, dragon, rainbow, dragon, Adrian, Hana, dragon, march for our kingdom, Republican Empire. And of course now I know that the gas house went down by 4 cents since last Friday, by 4 days ago. So basically they're paying 4 cents less per liter, right? So for 100 liters, they're saving $4, right? $4 if they make the full, if you make the full now, right? If they make the full now. However, if the car is, it could happen, of course, that the cars that the cars are of course electric or hybrid. If the cars are electric or hybrid, then of course the same doesn't apply, of course, co-equally. It applies only for those that are mostly on gas. Although if it's a hybrid and it has to use some gas, then yes, obviously if it's electric, here in Quebec, La Belle Province, our cars run on electric, eh? There's all of the cars here in Quebec, La Belle Province, they're all electric cars, so it doesn't apply the same if it's electric here from Quebec, because our electrical system comes from hydro water, and it goes all the way to six states, all the way to Manhattan Island, believe it or not, on the New York City. 1/20th of our electricity is, of course, that is provided to Manhattan Island, is of course provided from Hydroelectric Quebec, here from the plants of hydroelectric. So that's fascinating. If you're into stuff like that, what is the best way for me to get more sun? So I'm gonna cross here. I'm gonna wait for, unless I'm gonna go. Okay, because I gotta cross on the other side. So what I'm trying to do, of course, is get as much sun as I can, right? Fundamentally, that is why I'm kind of zigzagging here. I'm trying to get as much sun as I possibly can. That's the purpose, to go towards sunset. And if I cross on the parallel side, then I guess that's gonna give me more sun. If I cross on the side to go there by the flag. See another flag spotted, and I spot the flag. I gotta show mine off. See the big flag there? That's what it is. And here I guess I can cross. I guess I can cross here like that. Just make sure I cross safely, you know? Because sometimes the brakes malfunction, the electricity malfunctions, the citizen might press the accelerator instead of the brake. So you see there, that's the flag. That's the flag. Canadian flag, I gotta show mine. Whenever I spot the flag of Canada, I show mine off again. Sometimes memory comes back, it's just that for the time being I have trouble remembering. I don't know if it was COVID or I used to live here on the island of Montreal, maybe it was. Beautiful flowers, gotta post. I love it, love it. Well, roses there, kind of pinky. So I don't know if it was because where I used to live in a very small, tight, I didn't even have a bathtub there. It was so small, it was like a prison cell. I always say I served my time, and it was so small, like a tight prison cell. And it's just tiny, small prison cell, like, you know, it was just tight, small. I didn't even have a proper kitchen. The kitchen was in my room. The stove top, I had a stove top. Basically an oven with a stove top. An oven with a stove top. The machinery to provide the oven and the stove top, right? 4 little stove tops was in my room. I didn't have a separate kitchen. So basically it was one room which included a stove top and a little bit of a place to do dishes. And the bathroom was tiny, small, super tiny. Super tiny. So what I know from the documents is that I lived there from at least 2010. Turn your heads left and right. From at least 2010. Hey, look at this. This is nice also. I love it. Halloween, please reduce the tickets and the cost of the goods. Oh, you get a little ghost there. A little bit of happy one there. The flowers in the corner, nice yellow flowers, by the way. And this one here, so this is gonna be fun, you know, for the children. And please, I wanted to see a reduction in the cost, you know, of the candies before Halloween. You know, that would be nice to see a reduction in the costs before Halloween, you know. That would have been nice. Oh, you see one there, Halloween there. Oh yeah, let's go what it says. See what it says there. Wow. Caution, do not enter. Oh yeah, caution. Oh, it's nice. You see, you have the ghosts in the back, 4 ghosts, and you have the spiders, and you have the terrain there. Pretty cool. That's nice. I like that. I like Halloween a lot. I'm gonna wear my mask. I'm gonna dress up as a rainbow vampire. Basically, I'm gonna be rainbow vampire, rainbow Dracula, if you will, Dracula. All my mystic past lives, reincarnations, and having served under the real deal Dracula, Vlad the Impaler, some past life regressions that I prefer not to remember. Maybe that's why I lost my memory, to make space for the past lives, reincarnations, or the mold there. Or I survived a vicious surprise attack years and years and years ago. I gave myself a new deadline, October 31st, to go retrieve the archives. Go retrieve the archives at the Jewish General Hospital. Go retrieve the archives at the Jewish General Hospital. I got 4 major deadlines coming for me, October 31st. Hey, look at that red dragon. Look at that red dragon. Who's the red dragon that you see? That is you and that is me. We like red and yellow and the green. Say hello. We gonna see. Say hello. Red dragon. See? Plenty of red dragons there, man. That's nice. Looks like it's falling from the top, you know? Looks like it's falling from the top. That is what we're gonna be doing, of course, with that. And we're gonna be, of course, memorizing, of course, all the circumstantial prepositions where we are now, to be in the dynamics, you know? So all those, of course, appellations where we got to be, of course, on the left and on the right and in the middle. You gotta get a little bit of that space and make sure here, because it pulls you down when you go up and down. It pulls you down, it pulls you up, and that's just what we have here. So I don't know if it was the mold or where I used to live, you know. I moved there, I thought it was 2016, it was summer 2015, and I survived this vicious surprise attack years and years and years and years ago. That's why I said this, to retrieve the archives from the Jewish General Hospital is one of my... The Jewish General Hospital is not just for Jewish people or Jews, it's called the Jewish General Hospital. It's for everybody. That's just the name, Jewish General Hospital. There's a Jew anyway, so that's the name, and that's where I gotta go retrieve my archives to see what date was it when I went there, because after having survived that vicious surprise attack, you know, years and years and years ago, I was hit in the head a few times. I fell, hit my head on the floor, on the concrete, and had a dislocated right arm, right shoulder, you know. Had a dislocated right arm, right shoulder. I went with my right arm, right shoulder was cracked back by doctors at the emergency, and I was put on some meds, I guess for pain or something like that. And I'm curious when it was. Maybe it was winter 2014. Maybe it was winter 2014, or maybe it was around that time, you know. Because I have trouble remembering my life prior to like January, February 2014. It's like a blackout. I can't be sure of the memories and all that of my life prior to 2014-ish, you know. Winter 2014-ish. So January, February 2014-ish, you know. Hey, look at those. Doesn't really matter, since that's so long ago that most of my work, independent, artistic, athletic, geopolitical work has been, of course, relatively informative for the North American civilizational complex. As you can see, my workout, which I created in 2019, my prediction, of course, I take a lot of pride in my work as an independent artist, athlete, and geopolitical theoretical analyst, philosopher, thinker, and strategist. I always develop strategies for the North American collective NORAD NATO for world peace. I was an advocate for world peace, but of course, world peace, of course, is something which now, as I have predicted that there is going to be an international conflagration back in 2019. You heard that correct. I have proof. Look at that beautiful red flowers there. I have proof of what I just said. Hey, I predicted an international conflagration back then, back in 2019. Basically, in other words, I predicted what's kind of happening now. If you want me to phrase it that way, I guess I can, because I have proof. I have the video, and then you can see hundreds of workout program systems, because I performed and I did it, successfully completed hundreds of my own creative workout training program system. And there you see it's day 4 of the World War III scenario, and the first video was October 17th. So soon, in 3 days, it's gonna be 6 years. I guess I'm gonna have to do a special related to that event. And I've been on a fitness journey for years and years and years, and for me it's every day, a fitness journey every day. I march, I work out, I train, and I guess I already marched last week more than all the generals of the free world, you know, more than all the generals of the free world, you know. Already marched more than the generals of the free world last week, and There's of course the consequential abilities of having the relationship where we are now, to be in the domain where we are, to be involved in the categories, you know, of being appletive and being industrious and loving some yellow flowers and a little bit of that creature. What's that? That's a good omen for me, you know. That's a caterpillar, caterpillar, caterpillar. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Gonna leave you alone, baby. Love you. It's gonna go. It's gonna transform otherwise. Gonna flora, fauna, you know. Something which I appreciate and always appreciate a public work embellishment of the cities. And see little beauties here. Look at those. Aren't they just gorgeous here? Let's hey, very nice, eh? Gotta thank the public workers who embellish the cities. Oh, somebody I put for cats or kitty cats, something there. Okay, yeah, that's somebody I put for water and food. I guess if you have strays here, or somebody maybe they go in and out of. They go in and out. Gotta salute the public workers. Public workers who pick up the garbage. Public workers who pick up the garbage right there, you know, the garbage collectors of the 63, always for the 10, the 50, and the 3. And sanitation workers, public workers, construction workers, the butchers, the bakers, transit workers. You know, we got a lot of financial difficulties. My problem, financial, economic, and commercial now, basically monetary problem. This is my only stress and problem at the moment, because I definitely had other stresses and problems. You know, I was depressed and suicidal, and as I said, I have 4 things to do before October 31st. One of it is retrieve the archives from the Jewish General Hospital, see when that surprise attack occurred, and of course that is just the relative, of course, illustration where we have, of course, now to be doing, and of course all the civilizational complexes where we are now, of course, to be in all the domains where we are, of course, into the sun as we go. That is just, of course, the appellatives, of course, instrumentality of not remembering, and of course memory loss sometimes just comes, of course, through several things, of course, where we have to be ourselves involved in, and of course all those domains where we have to be involved, is that sometimes it's not affecting us on a daily basis, right? Because really it doesn't really matter what I was before 2014, you know, before 2014, of course, because of course I have changed and survived so many other things, of course, in the domains where we are now, of course, Imperium N.A.C.W.P. So of course all those characteristics, all my work is more important thing, where we have, of course, all the work involved with the civilizational complexes of which we are now, to be in the domains where we have this life-affirming matter, to be living for the moment, you know, living for the moment, to be living for the moment. And to be living for the moment is, of course, something which will be, of course, characterized, of course, to be in the appellational circumstances where we are now, to be in the domains where we got the appellatives, normatives, of course, to be circumferential about it, or of course to be relative, of course, in the domains that we are now. And now my brain is doing a little bit of that mathematics, you know, a little bit of that mathematics, of course, to be now in the component things where we have now all the civilizational complex, and all, of course, the civilizational complex which it is now, of course, to be in. Monster. Marcelo. So here we are, of course. So all, of course, the civilizational aspects where we are, of course, now to be protrudent, of course, in all the manners where we are now, of course, is to be in the circumstantial, of course, preposition would be, of course, to be situated on the side, of course, in the left and the right, of course, to be now, put it, of course, on all the circumpositions, and of course, to be now on the memory loss, basically. But if it comes back or not, it doesn't really matter. I guess what matters for me is today, you know. What matters for me is today, of course, and is consequently, of course, to be for today and then for tomorrow, and of course, all, of course, the appellations and the other consequential realities of who I was before 2014, January, February. That person's dead, as I died even during COVID. So I guess I'm on my 4th rebirth, you know. Maybe I shouldn't be alive even, you know. Because I was viciously attacked by surprise, and I guess they tried to take me out, of course, and failed, and bloodied up, bruised, I guess, battered, but gotta get it on that go, you know, and that's just what it is with that. And well, they tried, eh? I don't know, I saw a movie where it was making me think of a movie. I saw it about 3.5 years ago. Hard to Kill. Hard to Kill. I'm not a Steven Seagal fan, but that one was interesting. That one was interesting. Gonna take a few steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just gonna wait until it's my turn to pass and pass it properly, because here's a bit of a dangerous corner. I recommend that you know you're in the public, so you have added responsibilities, duties, and obligations which would have not been under the normal circumstances, and just drive safely. You know, the cars, the life is more important. You know, money is to buy, sell. You know, now you gotta salute the trucks, because across the 63, they're by the thousands. They're going with lettuce, with romaine lettuce, with cheese, with hamburgers, with buns, with bread, with corn, with lots of goods. Just do a little bit of meditation. Now, of course, those 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 and more. There's 4 and more, of course, and I got 22 seconds, so I better get on that going with my steps as well. Gotta salute the truckers, the bakers, the butchers, the nurses, the doctors, and the firefighters, the plumbers, and gotta see my shadow a little bit, eh? A little bit of that shadow with it. And here I got 4 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. I guess that's all I needed. Cross safely, and now go west into the sun, and then turn left and right. I don't want to do more than 4-5 hours today. Marching, I guess it's yesterday rested, and a good needed rest. Now I'm grateful, thankful, smiling, joyous. You know, we got that Quebec here in N.A.C.W.P province. We love it with that French style, and it doesn't really matter for me if my memory who I was before, because I'm not that person anymore. And I guess I died. It's not a guess. I really died several times, you know. Being reborn during this COVID, androgynous pansexual, founder of the dancing goddess Dragon Kingdom. Pledge your legions, laying the foundations for the dancing goddess and the Dragon Kingdom with trillions, 700 trillions of kisses. 700 trillions of kisses to those beautiful yellow flowers there. Surviving right in the midst of the complex of civilization, these highways here and all the highways across the North American collective. It's always for the 10, the 50, and the 3 years. Read George Patton's 3 Glass Darkly, one of my favorite poems, but George Patton didn't mention that in a previous incarnation. George Patton was my wife, and I was his, and we were married, husband and wife was husband. So I was his husband, and then I was his wife. So we were married twice, but once I was the wife and once I was his husband. And here I am, androgynous pansexual, because my reincarnations in the previous lives were sometimes born a man, a woman, a man, a woman, man, a woman, man, a woman, man, a woman, so many times a man, so many times a woman, so many times a woman, so many times a man, so many times a woman, so many times a woman, a man, that now you get that 50-50, you know. Androgynous pansexual, artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical, theoretical, analyst, and theorist, always for the butchers, always for the bakers, always loving me. Some of these beautiful flowers, they pop there, see? Gorgeous. In the sun, I'm enjoying this wilderness and civilization. I guess I'm on my fourth restart. This summer is now autumn. Of course, autumn began September. So I'm on my fourth rebirth. Nothing that I will to go back to, just living for today, you know, and with dreams and hopes for tomorrow. Mainly my work, manifesting as the dancing goddess in the Dragon Kingdom, which dates to pre-COVID, especially during COVID, as I was really hit hard by COVID, eh? I guess, is that the 63? There you go. The 63, Providence. 63, the 10, the 50 states and the 10 provinces and 3 territories, which we're going to fuse my way via the debt fusion theory and create the 2 complementary covenant and cooperative public-private partnership institutions infused, integrated with all existing institutions and organizations. And gonna get into that in a moment, but back to my rebirth, I guess, now, laying the foundations. First Empire, Kingdom, Democratic Republic, to be created by 718 trillions of kisses. Trillions of kisses, trillions of marching steps with that. Trillions of kisses. Trillions of marching steps. Trillions of kisses. Trillions of marching steps, trillions of kisses parallel. Lots of rock and roll, lots of push-ups, lots of squats, lots of hawks. Lots of rock and roll, lots of kisses, trillions of kisses, eh? First Empire, Kingdom, Kingdom Empire, to be founded, financed by 718 trillions of kisses. Although financially stressed, I'm a kiss trillionaire, so anybody wants some, pledge your allegiance, legions. Keep my holy sacred name out of your mouth, as I'm being rebirthed now in the sun with the moon under the stars, Adrian Hana Dragon. If it's not for blessing, otherwise let it be pestilence. So we got an understanding, otherwise let it be pestilence. So we got an understanding, otherwise let it be pestilence. So we got an understanding, otherwise let it be pestilence. So we got an understanding. So that's what we have to do, of course, in the consequential matters of where we are now, you know, in the ablative of living for today with hope for tomorrow, here on the island of the Hawk. Financially stressed, but this freedom, I don't know, supposedly, because I kept journals, so supposedly, according to journals, I got this tatted up in New York, and he made me a deal special because there was a minimum of $70 per starting tat. He made me a deal to get it for less because I didn't have that much money, and because it was the word freedom, the tattoo artist decided to make me a good deal, because it was the word freedom. But freedom got to be insured, you know. That's a new thing. New. It's new under the sun, Mr. King Solomon. Eh? Freedom is new. Freedom got to be insured, defended, insured, and secured and insured, at least for our empire coming be of the fusion of the 10, the 50, and the 3, with some joy rehabilitation and some mass public-private partnership financing, because we got that imbalance now. It has got to be rebalanced after a few decades. Too much private. We got to get that public as well, you know. We got to get a little bit of that public. So we got public and private, and we got to get on that public-private partnership, you know, always for those dimensions which exist now in the propositional impacts, of course, of the characteristics and financially stressful times for many of us, including myself. And here is where years ago, and probably this year, not now because I didn't bring a proper bag, but see, I'm gonna take some of these are clean. See these ones? From here I harvested grapes and I boiled them and I made grape juice for the winter, a few winters in a row. But not all the times I take them from here, right? Sometimes I take them from other spots around in Montreal, Hawk Island, Montreal, the island of the Hawk in this life, my home in this life and in a parallel life. And of course, they're wild grapes all over here. These are wild grapes, and once I cooked with them, see, they're wild grapes. See, like these clusters. See, these are all wild grapes. You need to wash them thoroughly. See, you need to wash them, and then All these are wild grapes there, see? Oh, they're so good. See, they're wild grapes. And I harvested them. I'm probably gonna come, I'm gonna try to come this weekend, if not next weekend, with a bag and get some. I'm gonna wash them. See, they're wild grapes. Wash them, boil them, crush them, wash them really well. Put them in a pan with water, a little bit of sugar. Not a lot of sugar. Not even, maybe not even, but usually I put a little bit. If not, you can always put a little bit after. So wash them really well, crush them while they're boiling. So basically stir them while crushing them a little bit while they're boiling, right? So while they're boiling, you crush them a little bit. So that's what my process, and it came out really good. A bit sour because I didn't put lots of sugar, but nonetheless, they're wild grapes, of course, and you can utilize the wild grapes here to be done. I have the videos, actually. I have the videos. I started a few years ago during COVID, actually, doing that, and that's what we're gonna get doing, a little bit of that rock and roll, you know, because Mother Nature here kind of provides, and you know, right here between the wilderness, and of course, you got some wild grapes and you got civilization in the midst. You see how kind of against odds, in many ways you could say that, against odds. It's the flourishing grapes have managed to grow on the man-made fence and grow and be good regardless of all the cars that pass here. They're still good and edible and taste good. It's just you have to wash them really well, right? Because they're not really polluted inside, because the pollution, I guess, flies away with the wind and in the ground, and when you get the sun and you get the water and the rains, but see, they go up to here, the wild grapes. So back to my rebirth, you know, I guess memory loss, if it comes back, some partial whatever, if it doesn't, it's not important. That's a long time ago, 2014, February 2014. It's more than 11 years and 7 months ago. It's going to be 11 years and 8 months. Soon it's going to be 12 years. But since it's about February, let's say February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. We're October already, so more than 11 years and 7 months. So that's a long time ago. So I have a very good memory of the past years, and that's basically what matters most. I used to live in a very moldy place. I didn't even have a bathtub, I didn't even have one. I have one now, so I'm grateful. It was like a small prison. So I always say, I guess I served my time, and I was saved by the goddess. I was saved by the goddess, and I always say, I guess I was saved by the goddess. Goddess. In order to do some good deeds, you know, which I guess I did, and volunteering and saving some accidents on the streets, balancing that justice, scales of justice, like a feather, and of course a little bit of that feather justice, a little bit of karma with it, and I guess I kind of balanced it out now, and I'm allowed my rebirth. Priestess, Dragon Zero Priestess Hannah, right here, Dragon Zero, Adrian Hannah, Dragon rebirthing. And I was hit by COVID in February, March, and February, March I was hit hard by COVID, It was really hit hard. Thought I was gonna die. It was like death, pestilence, and disease. I got triple vaxxed, and I encourage all to keep the protocols, public hygienic protocols, the hygienic protocols. I urge all to keep them. The hygienic protocols, super important, you know, because we got bacteria, germs, microbes, and you know, because we're still vulnerable, We're still vulnerable, and now, of course, things have been unfolding in the past 3.5 years, at least ever since Russia invaded Ukraine, ever on the parallel line as I have myself predicted that it would back in October 2019, October 17th to be specific. So it's gonna actually be 6 years, and I have proof, because I have the video online. So I have proof for what I say. I'm just gonna check. I got $5. What? I got $5. I just wanted to check if I had some. Look at that red. My favorite color. What I said, it's so red here with the sun so beautifully shining. Just gonna make sure I close the wall, my wallet. I think I got $1 there also. Let's see. I got $1. Yeah. So I got $6, but I don't feel like spending. So I had to pose a little bit with that beautiful red and green for the red for the color of the Dragon Army, which I've been and will continue to call as a mass public-private partnership initiative. Public-private partnership. All of my initiatives are fundamentally public-private partnerships. And the DGA with green for the Dancing Goddess Army, aka the Imperial Integrated Dance League, which have been and will continue to call for its formation thereof, because dancing is my favorite sport, and I found 10 cents. Let's see. This is an N.A.C.W.P thing. If you see somebody doing this with money or anything else, an object, objects or money, what we do is we, such as for example here, see what I was doing? I was checking the year of production. 2019. So that money, providentially, I was just discussing, this money was created, produced, minted, because it's not printed, it's minted because it's not a banknote, it's a coin, so it was minted, I could say minted, in 2019, right, see? 2019, right? So because it was minted in 2019, it's interesting, love, we don't know the month, but in October 2019, October 17th to be specific, I posted my first video sounding the alarm that there is coming an international conflagration on the horizon. As I go to meet several deadlines before October 31st to retrieve my archives from the Jewish General Hospital, see when was that vicious surprise attack, because I was attacked viciously by surprise. I was hit in the head a few times and had a dislocated right arm, was bloodied up. It was really bloodied up. I went to the Jewish General Hospital, and I'm curious what day it was. Then I have to write some emails in concordance to NATO member countries and leaders and organizations to invite for the great cooperation invitation of the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom, and furthermore for that collaboration to invite, of course, others to cooperate and cooperate, and of course be of that manner where we are, of course, now in the civilizational aspects that we are, of course, to collaborate on these great matters, and of course further